Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, Harry Wilmington, and this is the show where we teach you guys how to date as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And on today's show, I'm going to be reading through a message from a guy who just recently started seeing somebody. He went on a first date with her. His mind is blown, so blown that he is afraid he's going to mess it up. And I'm sure you yourself have been there before, where you meet a girl that you really click with really well on that first date, and you're just like, man, I didn't expect this. This one's really, really good, and I'm gonna mess this up. What should I do? So we're gonna answer that guy's question. As always, for these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Introvert Dating Success, and my show pops up. And of course, if you want to hear these shows a week in advance before I post them on those other platforms, you can go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Introvert Dating Success. If you become a Patreon, you'll be able to hear these shows a week before they drop on other platforms, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this guy's message. It goes a little something like this. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and last Friday, I went out on a date with the most beautiful woman I've ever met. The date actually went really well, too. We went out for a few drinks at an arcade and ended up talking the whole time, and really hit it off. So far, I like what I'm hearing. I'm liking, that he actually got the date, because a lot of guys don't ask for dates. They hope the woman's going to say something. But he got the date, and he took her out to an arcade, which I recommend arcades for first dates. I think sometimes as introverts, we don't do too well with just having dinner by itself, because it means that we have to try to think of conversation. And in order to get you out of your head, it's good to be able to have some kind of distractions built into the date that are active, so you guys can do stuff together and talk and mix it up together, so your brains are just constantly thinking of, I got to think of something to say. What am I going to say? Oh my God, I'm running out of things to say. So I do arcades. Like I do Dave & Buster's sometimes. You can get food there and do arcade games. And it also is a chance to see what kind of personality a girl has, because I've taken some girls to an arcade where it's like they want to play every game, and we're having a good time. We're competing. We're playing, fighting games together, or she's watching me play, and we're just winning tickets and stuff. And then I've gone where I've done that, and the girl was just kind of like a limp the whole time, and just kind of walking around and just like, and just wasn't really vibing well. So it's a good way to test if you're going to be vibing with a girl or not. Continuing on, she ended up staying the night, and then in parentheses he says, we didn't hook up, just a lot of making out. We both did not want to have sex. I'm sorry, I got to pause. That is a lie, and you know it. And I used to be this guy. I used to be the guy that would convince himself that he did not want to have sex on that first date. Now, is there anything wrong with wanting to have sex on a first date with a hot girl? The answer is no. Does that mean it has to happen? It does not mean it has to happen. But to say that you didn't want it to happen, that's a lie. Because especially at 24, if you see a hot girl and she's getting along with you, you're wanting to have sex with her anytime that you can. So it would have been better to not lie and say to yourself, well, I wanted sex, but I knew I needed to be patient and wait for a little bit. So I decided not to make any moves to lead towards that, but I definitely wanted her. Also, whenever I hear a guy say this, what the scenario that plays in my head is that they started making out heavy. He started going for some places, and then she was like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And this is usually the point where nice guy introverts would be like, oh, nothing. I mean, we're just going along with whatever, and we don't have to do anything. I just want to make out and be cool, and it is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes girls will say that to test you, because you're automatically projecting and thinking, well, they must be asking me what I'm doing because they don't want to have sex right now. When really, that's not the case. She's just doing that to see what you're going to do next. Because if you're a guy that's like nervous about that kind of thing, then you might be like, oh, nothing, versus just being like, well, just nothing. I'm just seeing where things go. So don't be afraid to make your moves. What I always tell guys is this: you have to be the one that's ultimately responsible for the physicality nature of your relationship to happen, okay? So as the guy, she, as a woman, she's going to expect you to push for that already because you're the guy, okay? So it's her job to set where the limits of that are. But it's still important that you try, because ultimately that shows off masculinity. It shows that you're a man, and it shows her that you desire her, which can ultimately make her even more attracted to you, to the point where she might change her mind in the process and actually want to do some stuff, okay? So, for example, if you're on a date and this guy, you're making out with her, having a good time, you're making out, and your hand starts reaching for her butt. If she's not ready for that step yet, she might just kind of hit your hand back a little bit. Oh, okay, and then you just kind of back off and you keep making out. Make up for like 5 more minutes, and then you try to go for another reach. Or I've had it where I'll do that, where I'll make up with a girl. I'll start reaching for her butt. She's like, kind of moves her hand away. Like, okay, cool, whatever. And we make out for like 2 or 3 more minutes. And then she grabs my hand and she moves it there, which means you now have access to the location you were previously trying to go to. But it's escalation, it's anticipation. These are things that make women desire you and make them want to allow you to have sex with them. So I say this to say that when you're making these moves and you start getting some resistance, quit for a little while, go back, and if she stops it again, just know, okay, that clearly is not a move that's happening. But don't ever lie to yourself and say you don't want sex, and don't ever think that it's wrong to make a sexual move. It's not. Be okay if she rejects your sexual move, because you got to understand, the more you date, the more you're going to realize that there's a lot of resistance from women in the beginning, solely because there's this whole complex of them not wanting to appear like the overly zealous woman, because that is a negative thing in our society to look like. So she might be trying to hold off in hopes that you won't judge her, but don't let that be a punishment, and don't let that stop you from at least trying a couple of times for these various steps. Oh, and also, yeah, if you're not sleeping with a woman on that first date, don't let her stay over. Like, I know it's gonna be hard to kick her out of your place, but if that's not going down, she needs to learn early on that if you guys aren't getting to the physicality of stuff, then you need a good night's sleep, and she needs to go home. And there might be some women that watch this and be like, well, that's not fair. How dare you say that I either have to sleep with him or I have to get out? Like, how dare you? Why can't I just stay there and cuddle? Because that's not what the bed's for. The bed is for sleeping solo, or if the girl's staying over, ideally you're doing stuff, unless she's on a period, in which case, even with that, I've dated girls where even on their period, they're still down to do whatever with me to make sure that I'm happy and satisfied at the end of everything, okay? So, but no, that's the tease that women do, where like they want to stay over and snuggle with a guy or spoon him or do whatever, but don't let him go all the way. And that is, as a guy, that is very frustrating. And if you're going to be there frustrated and you're going to be complaining about, well, why don't we do anything this and that? Just kick her out. Just kick her out and be like, I'll see you on the next date, but don't let her stay over if that's not happening. Continuing on. Let's see. That morning when she got home, she texted me saying she had a great time with me, and I asked her in response if she wants to go out again, and she said yes. Okay, kudos to the guy for the yes. However, you never want to ask a woman the day after a date if it's cool for you guys to go out again. You save that for when you're actually ready to ask her out on the next date. So if you go on a date with her tonight, for example, she gets home, I had a great time. You can text back, hey, great, me too. That's it. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what if I don't tell her I don't want to see her again, how's she going to know? She won't. And that is going to help you, because you got to understand, part of a build-up for woman's attraction to you is anticipation, not being able to know your next move, not being sure of where your feelings are, not being able to tell if what she did on that first date attracted you enough to want to get a second one. And it is that level of not knowing and anticipating that is going to actually build up her attraction for you faster than if she just knows that she has you. Once women know that they just emphatically have you, or that you won't walk away, or that you're open at her beck and call to do a date anytime, that's when you become less fun for her, and that's when she leaves. So you don't want to be after every date saying, I had a great time, let's do something else, I had a great time, we should go out again, because that's going to actually, that has a higher probability of decreasing her interest for you than if you just kind of leave it ambiguous and say, well, I had a great time too, okay, I'll catch you. I'll hit you up later. It's what's worked for me, okay? And it just helps. So just giving that a little tidbit for you. Continuing on. Now here's where I am freaking out. Oh, here we go. I actually really like her, and I haven't felt this way about someone since my ex-fiance. I've spent the past 2 years since taking a break from serious dating to try and improve myself so that I can be in a good mental place next time I meet someone. And I think that's good. I think that if you break up with somebody, you legit need time to really assess your situation, to assess where you are, to figure out what went right in that previous relationship and where you could have improved, and to see what kind of person you ultimately need to be to make sure that something's able to work long term. So if you, versus rushing into it, then you're dating the wrong people, or you're getting into a situation that you shouldn't have been in, or even like you get with the right person, but you're still not over the previous person. So therefore you're going to mess up that new relationship because you haven't dealt with all the demons from that previous situation. Continuing on. Here's the thing. I am absolutely terrified I'm going to mess this up. I hate to tell this guy, but he's probably going to mess it up. And I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer and say that he can't not mess it up. But what I have typically found is that if you are fearful of something happening, typically that thing is going to happen, especially when it comes to people in relationships. What happens is this. He says he's terrified. So he's so terrified that he's going to try to do everything he can to not mess it up. And that, therefore, is the word try. He's going to try to do stuff. And by doing things, that is typically where a lot of guys mess up, because guys feel like they have to be doing in order to make something happen. They have to be the ones to make something happen. I have to make this relationship work. And if he were able to not be so nervous and take a more laid back approach, he'd probably have a better shot at keeping her around, because he wouldn't be adding any pressure. He wouldn't be trying to control her in a way that makes sure that this thing works. And those are things that guys that are terrified or aren't confident in their ability to keep a girl around do. And so that's why this guy's saying he's terrified he's going to mess it up. I'm like, because he's thinking, I'm terrified. I got to make sure that I'm doing everything right. And I got to make sure that I say the right things and do the right dates. And I can't ever fight with her. And I got to make and all those things that he's thinking are actually going to be the things that are going to chase her away, because he's not going to be the leisurely, cool guy that he was on this date. He's going to turn to this other guy that's like obsessive and needy and nervous and scared. And that's the guy that she doesn't want to date. Continuing on, I am also a pretty passionate guy who was raised not to bottle up my feelings, but instead to express them and talk them through. And this is where a lot of guys shoot themselves in the foot too, is that they want to be overly expressive. And I think we've been taught as guys that women want a guy that's able to express his emotions. And the problem with that train of thought is that we're not taught how to express them in a way that's level-headed enough and doesn't sound like we're over needy. So for example, if a woman does something that upsets you, there's a way to address that that's not looking like you're crying about it, where it's like you can say, hey, just so you know, this thing happened and I was really upset by it, and so don't do that. That'll be a way to do that. Versus like, well, I did this sort of thing and I just know you, I couldn't understand why you tried to hurt me and I felt this way, and oh my God, like you were doing this thing and I don't know why, and we need to talk more about it and express it, because that's womanly, and also that's not really like the guy way to go about it. Because when guys say that they express their emotions, it usually boils down to they cry a lot, they whine a lot, and they want to overtalk her about what they did. And really, especially as an introvert, you should already be in the mindset of being more succinct with your words. Like, you don't need to talk to a woman for 20 minutes about an emotion that you had with a situation that she did, versus just having like a 5-minute conversation and say, hey, this happened, I felt this kind of way about it, and this is why I took it this way. Could you not do that? Like, that's a way to express it where you're not sounding like you're like just throwing up all these sensitivities and emo feelings that are going to ultimately chase most women away, you know? So I commend this guy for being able to express his emotions, but I hope he's been able to do it in a way where he's learned how to talk through them in a way that's not going to lessen his value in her eyes. Continuing on, I've been talking to friends, but I feel absolute constant anxiety right now. I know it's so early and I really don't want to scare her off and make her think I'm crazy or obsessive. I truly just care and love hard. There's nothing wrong with loving a girl hard or caring about her with intensity, but there's a way in which you express that is not going to scare a woman off. But in terms of this guy in particular, he has these feelings after one date. So he's gone on one date, had a good makeout session, had a woman stay the night over his house, and he's already head over heels in love. And again, this is something that a lot of guys growing up see in movies and TV shows. A guy sees a girl, and from the moment he sees her, it's just like, oh, I'm heartbroken. Oh my God, I gotta love her right away. And love isn't just a feeling. Love is also a choice. And you have to decide when you first meet a girl if she is worthy of you choosing to show love to. So you can't just base that off one date, because a date can be great, but seeing somebody for months at a time, you're going to get a wide range of their emotions and their characterizations and their feelings, and you're going to have days where they just are not your favorite person. Are you going to now stop loving them because that feeling of intense love that you have for them suddenly went away for that moment while you're mad at them? Like, I've dated plenty of women who, there are moments where I got mad at them and I'm like, okay, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, whatever. So I don't want to deal with you in this moment, but I still care for you and I'll see you some other time. Like, me being upset with you in this moment does not take away how much I care about you. It just means I'm being frustrated. But I say that to say, so this guy doesn't have nearly enough time in to have made the decision to choose to love this person as intensely as he is, nor does he know if she's actually deserving of it. And as an introvert, you have great analyzation skills. You should be, on the time that you're not on a date with a girl, you should be sitting there and saying, okay, I mean, not your whole time. Clearly, you're going to be chasing your life purpose and stuff like that. But there should be times when you're thinking about her where you're saying, okay, so these couple dates went well. What did she do on these dates that I liked? Were there any red flags? Did anything come up in conversation that I need to look out for? How she treat the service people? How she talk about her parents? How did she, did she call me at the end of the night and thank me for anything? Did she say she wanted to do something in the future? Like, what was she bringing to the table? Because it's not just about you bringing stuff to the table. It's also about, what is this girl going to add to your life? You're a man that ideally has a purpose, is chasing after it. You're a guy that's working on your own personal goals, your own emotional goals. Is this person going to add to them or lessen them? And you don't know that after a first date. So for all you guys that keep falling in love with women after one or two dates, you are doing yourself a disservice, because what's going to happen is, guys unfortunately tend to, we'll say for argument's sake, fall in love. So guys tend to fall in love a lot quicker than women, but they also have a harder time getting rid of women once they realize, oh, this wasn't the girl that I wanted after all, because you made the decision so early on. So a guy will like fall in love after date 2, for example, and then by the third or fourth month, he's like, oh crap, I don't want to be with her. Versus if he had paced out himself to say, okay, I'm going to observe this person for 3 months, and then when I get to the third month, if we're still getting along great, then I'll decide if I want to be her, if I want her to be my girlfriend or not. And at that point, I'll see where my feelings are at and then monitor them accordingly. And even when you fall in love with a girl, and I think it's great when you do fall in love, because the feeling of being in love, the ability to care for somebody, to have somebody around, to do stuff for them, it's great. But even when you get to the point where you love this person, you never want to be showing such high intensity that this person thinks that you're overly needy of their love. Like as if they're the only person that you could ever talk to, or else you're going to like kill yourself or do whatever. Okay. So as the guy, you got to keep that stuff in check. That means you let your love speak more so with actions than words, and you don't do things that are going to make you seem like you're less confident about this, or that you think she's going to leave you. Things like trying to control where she goes, or constantly telling her, but I love you and I care about you so much. Blah, blah. Like all that stuff is not going to keep her around and keep her interested. Okay. So for this guy, I'd say a lot of the anxiety he's getting also is because he's fearful of loss. But again, it's been one date and you know nothing about her other than that one date. So anxiety usually results because you're trying to control a situation that you feel is uncontrollable, but you still want to try to control it. And what I found in my own personal life is I got rid of a lot of my anxieties once I was able to realize that, hey, you know what? Things are going to happen the way they happen. And all I can be is my best self. If the person that I'm dating doesn't like that version of my best self, they have every right to go to somebody else. And there's enough women out there that I can find somebody else. And that has helped me control my levels of dating anxiety. And that's not to say I don't occasionally have like, things that I think about or worry about, but it's like I've gotten a lot better at being able to internally figure that out versus trying to project that onto another person. And, I'll still occasionally talk to other people and say, hey, this is a situation I'm going through. Am I tripping? Should I be looking at this as intense as I am? Or is there another way to view this? But it's not fun. It's not fun for your headspace to be anxious. It's not anxious. It's not fun to try to control another person and worry about what they're going to do. Like, just get rid of that stuff for yourself by just really just focusing on, okay, I'm going to do the best that I can. And if I do the best that I can, ideally this person that I'm with will agree that that's the best that I am, and they'll want to be with that. And that's really all you have control over, okay? So hopefully this helps this guy out. Hopefully this helps you out as well. If you want to hear more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can also go to my YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Introvert Dating Success. The show pops right up. Go to iTunes. And if you want to get these shows a week early, you can go to my Patreon page and become a patron. Just go to patreon.com/Introvert Dating Success. Become a patron, and you'll have access to these shows a week before I post them on other platforms. Also, for all you guys that listen to the show, they're like, hey, Harry, your advice is great. I would love to make a donation of some sort or give you like a tip of some kind. You can now send me tips by going to introvertdatingsuccess.com, clicking on the tips tab, and from there you can either give me a tip by way of PayPal, by way of Cash App, and by way of the Patreon page, of course. Also, I do offer one-on-one coaching. So if you're a guy that likes what you're hearing here and thinks I can help your situation, simply go to the coaching tab on the website. From there, you can decide which coaching option is right for you. We can get you on a one-on-one call, and I can help you with the situation today. All right? So that's all I got for today's show. I'm Harry Wilmington. Thank you for checking out, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.